Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for checking out my video. This is Sally Poole and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute Easter card, and we'll be using the new Easter Bunny stamp set and the coordinating Easter Bunny punch. I am thrilled that Stampin' Up is starting to call bundles by the same name. It makes it so much easier. I'm also using the background paper for this is the Dainty Flowers paper. And this is a celebration item. It is on page 6 of the celebration catalog. I'm actually surprised that they still have it. I figured they would run out by now. The stamp set and punch are out of the mini catalog January through April 2023. And they are on page 52. Really cute set. You can buy it in a bundle and save 10%. So take a look at that. Stampin' Up has already run out of the, I can't think of the name of it, the Valentine's punch. They'll be getting more back in, but not until March or April, I think. And then also the Clover punch, and they won't be getting any more of those. So I'm thinking this might be the next to go down that trail. So if you're thinking about getting this, you probably want to grab it now. I also made, let me get this out of here. I'm sure it's got a terrible reflection with that light. I also made a couple different, same card, different colors. The one that we're going to be making is with Blushing Bride and Smoky Slate. And then that's the colors that I colored the bunny in. This one, I colored the bunny in Soft Suede. And then the card base I did in Rich Razzleberry. And then the layer behind the DSP is Fresh Freesia. And then this bow, which is made out of the crinkled seam ribbon binding, I colored it with Fresh Freesia, the Stampin' Blends. You can color right on this ribbon with the Stampin' Blends. This one, same cardstock, Rich Razzleberry with a layer of Fresh Freesia. This bunny is done in Crumb Cake. And then I colored this ribbon with Rich Razzleberry. Both of these were the dark Freesia, dark Rich Razzleberry. And then I tied two things into one bow. So there's also a little strand of the white baker's twine from the Baker's Twine Essential Pack. So that's a great thing to have because it's got 5 different colors in it. Hopefully there's 5. I should look. I might have thrown my linen thread in there. I think there's 5. Okay, let me show you what you're going to need to make this card. And I do have a PDF linked in the description below with all of the dimensions that you'll need. So I'm using a Blushing Bride card base, 5.5 by 8.5, and scored at 1 1/4 inch, or excuse me, 4 1/4 inches. And then this is for the inside, just a piece of basic white, 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then a piece of Smoky Slate, 3 7/8 inches by 5 inches. and a piece of the designer series paper, the wreath from the Dainty Flowers pack. And it actually comes out to be about 3 3/4 by 4 7/8. And I'll show you in a minute how I cut the entire 12 by 12 sheet. It's got 6 of these wreaths on it. You'll also need a scrap to stamp the bunny on. This one is about 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And then you'll need a scrap of Blushing Bride for the little layer that's behind the sentiment. And then just a scrap of basic white for the sentiment. And this sentiment is not a stamp. I actually made it on my computer. So I'll also put which font I used and the size of the font if you want to use the same thing. Most of the other sentiments I saw for Easter were too long and they would have covered up a lot of these flowers. So I just decided to try to get something that fit right in the center there. Okay, so let's get started. Let me grab a piece of paper out of the Dainty Flowers pack. This is what it looks like. So there's 6 wreaths and then some other floral vines right in the center of this paper. So I'm calling this open part the top of the wreath. These, I think they're daisies or cornflowers, are at the bottom. If you turn it over, you could use it that way too. I think it just looks like it's obviously upside down that way. Okay, so back up to the top. We're going to turn this on its side. And we're going to cut it at 4 7/8 inches. Not sure I have that in the camera. 4 7/8. And then we're going to make a 2 1/8 inch cut. Make sure you don't cut 2 1/4, which I did on the first one and it fouled the whole thing up. So 2 1/8 inches. Save this piece for later for something else. And then we're going to cut this remaining piece at 4 7/8 also. So you're just left with a tiny little sliver. And then we're going to cut all of these wreaths at 4 inches. So like I said, you get 6 of these panels to work with. So there's the bottom 3. And the top 3. And then one more thing we're going to do. We're going to cut 1/8 of an inch off each side of this. So I'm going to use the measurements on the right side of the cutting track. So it's just the first line. It's 1/8 of an inch. Turn it over. Cut another 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's the piece that we're going to work with. You have snoring dogs again. Let me mention one more thing. The pink card, I used it just as is, But on these other two with the brown bunnies, you can see, hopefully you can see a little difference in these. The one on the right isn't quite as light. What I did was take a blending brush. This isn't my Stampin' Up! One, and I have brown written on it, so I used it. And I actually took crumb cake ink, and I just did a little blending to get this more of a vintage look, and I thought it would match the brown bunnies better. Okay. So let's put our card together. Well, I guess we better stamp our bunny first. So I'm going to take my little scrap of basic white. I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm going to ink up my stamp. It is photopolymer. You can put something soft underneath here if you want when you're stamping, but these seem to work just fine without it for me. So there's our cute little bunny image, and these are pretty quick and easy to color. I didn't get too fancy with them. I'm not any kind of a fantastic coloring artist, so I'll just show you what I did with mine. Now I've got ink all over it already. So I'm going to take my light smoky slate. Make sure I'm in the camera. I sat down. And I'm just going to color in the bunny's ears, leaving the center white. And then I'm going to not color his little nose, color this a little bit, and go over to his eye. Let me see if you can see that, because I'm going to color his nose pink. He's so cute. Look at his little smiling face. And I'm just going to go around the edge, and I'm going to skip his chest and belly. They'll just remain white. Oh my gosh, those dogs. This happens every time, and I say something about them, and then when I go back and watch the video, I can't hear anything, so I'm not sure it's even worth mentioning, but it's terrible. Okay, so there's his little tail. And then I don't worry about, you know, everything not looking even. I think it looks better that way. And I'm actually going to take my dark smoky slate and just put a few little lines on the back of his ear, and then on the front outer edges, a little line across his head and his back, a line there along his little back leg. I'm going to color his front foot dark, his front left foot off side, and then a little bit of shading on his tail. And you can leave it just like that if you like, but I'm actually going to blend it just a little bit, pull that color around. Pull it away from the edge. And I try not to get too close to the edge and do circles when I'm doing that, because it tends to run outside of the lines then. All right, so there's our bunny. Our bunny body. Let's color. I'm using light Flirty Flamingo on the inside of his ear, and then his little nose, and then I'm making a good sized circle on his cheek. I don't know if you can see that. Let me grab my punch and we'll punch him out. This will dry lighter than what we're seeing right now too. So we'll line him up and punch him out. And there we've got our colored bunny. See, that was actually pretty quick and easy. So now let's take our card base and we will fold it in half. I did score it at 4 1/4. Should make it a little bit easier to fold. I'm gonna, excuse my reach, grab my bone folder and give this a press. So let's take our piece of smoky slate and our DSP. I don't know if it's just my trimmer or what, but when I cut this DSP, all of the pieces on, well, both the front and the back edges, they both seem to be sticking up. So I gave a press with my bone folder on all of the cards I did. This one I'm going to put a little bit of the Tombow liquid glue on. So hopefully I can line it up pretty well on the smoky slate panel. Wow, I'll bet you heard that one. So let's lay this down on here and try to get it even. Got my wreath open at the top, which doesn't matter yet at this point because I could turn it over. I'm going to use just my tape runner to put this on my card base. So we'll attach this to the front of the card base. And then I'm going to, let me sit down again, attempt to make a ribbon or a bow out of my, I've got my crinkled seam binding ribbon and then my white baker's twine. And I cut these at, they're pretty close to 9 inches. And I'm using one of these little ribbon tools. I have a terrible time tying bows when there's more than one piece of ribbon. So these, you just cross over the front. bit longer. And then grab these two that you pulled over the top and push them through. I'm sure you probably can't see this. Grab those ends and pull it tight. And there we've got our bow. So this one I just left white on the pink card. If you do want to color your ribbon, and this crinkle ribbon is great for coloring. Let me grab a piece here where you can see it. So you would just take your Stampin' blends, take the brush tip, and you don't want to just color it straight up and down. You want to color it using the side of the tip. Come out beautiful, and you can make ribbon whatever color you want. You can also color your like your white pearls and gems and things also with the Stampin' blends. Okay, I'm going to cut a little angle on the bottom of my ribbon because I don't like that square edge. Cut a little bit more off of the twine. And then I'm going to take my bunny and I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back. Put a big one there, a big one there, a big one there, and let's see if I have some smaller pieces. So you can use the halves and the edges and make sure you cut everything off of your sheet of dimensionals because it's all the same stuff and it works. Okay, so before I put my bunny down, I'm going to grab a glue dot, roll one end up just a little bit, and stick my bow on it. And then you can see exactly where you want your bow to be. And every time I did mine, I thought of, well, it looks like the bunny is smelling this little purple flower. So I set it up here on the left. Then I'm going to take off my backs of my dimensionals, hopefully. And then I actually didn't leave the two right pieces of the ribbon sticking out anywhere. They are underneath the bunny, so I think they're pretty much caught in the dimensionals, and then this one just hangs here. So now let me grab my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So here's the sentiment that I did on my computer, and I'm going to cut it out with the Stylish Shapes dies, and I'm using the second from the smallest circle. So I'm going to lay that on there. Put a little bit of tape on it. Put my plate 1 in, plate 2, my paper and die, and another plate too. And we'll run that through and cut it. So there's the little sentiment. And then I cut the Blushing Bride piece that goes behind it with this die from the Picture This die set, the round ones. Hopefully it will fit in. Yes, it looks like it will. And I used, there's a larger circle here, and then I believe these two are the same size. So I'm just going to find my tape. Probably don't really need to tape that down. Put in my plate 1, plate 2, my paper and my dies, another plate 2, and I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that this die fits through here without hitting the side. Yay, it worked. Okay, we don't need that machine anymore. So here's the piece that goes on the back. I am going to, I didn't quite get a whole circle, so I'm going to cut another one of those. I don't think I have a spare anywhere. I think my little piece of paper was too small. All right, so there's plate 1, plate 2. My paper and my die. Hopefully it'll hold still since I don't have it taped. There, that one's better. Okay, so let's grab our green glue again. And we'll just put a little bit on the back of the sentiment. Glue it down to the Blushing Bride piece. And then I'm just going to put 3 small dimensionals on the back of this. Take the backings off. And then we'll place it on our card. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of these wonderful heart pearls on here. There's some that are kind of a frosty white. It probably would show up on here, but I decided to go with, these are more of a iridescent. So let's put a few of those on here. Put one down there. One on the side. And these are not quite straight up and down. They're tilted a little bit. The one I'm putting on the top is straight up and down. Okay. So there's our card. What do you think about it? I think they're just really cute. I don't remember if I mentioned, but you could go back in and put a second coat of the pink on here if you really want it to pop. So anyway, that's my card for the day. I really appreciate you being here. I would love it if you would leave a comment, share this with your friends, subscribe to my page. It helps my channel grow. And hopefully you'll grab this set before it disappears. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.